So I'm Roy. I'm a affiliate professor of instruction here at Grand Valley State University. Part of my purview is English education. The other is college reading. And before that, I was a teacher, K-12 for 27 years. And so, yeah, that's where I'm coming from. I want to help new teachers be great teachers. I want to help teachers in the middle of their career to help upgrade their practice. And I want to encourage vintage teachers to share their ideas with other folks. So I guess that's why I'm here. Kevin, why don't you be next?
Hi, my name is Kevin Mulvihill, and I teach high school. I've been teaching high school for 27 years, and I also teach at Columbus Community College. I'm an adjunct professor. I teach English 101, 102, and sometimes poetry, depending on what they need, right? So sort of like the relief pitcher for baseball. I'm whatever they need me, I'm willing to teach there.
Yeah, I
So
was the utility infielder out here at Grand Valley before I was put on full-time status too. So I understand that.
right,
Hey, Kevin,
right.
just to let you know, you every once in a while your microphone sounds muffled, so I don't know if you're putting your hand over it or getting too far away from it or something like that.
Oh,
But
I
just
might be
let you
getting
know.
too okay. I might be getting too far away, and I for next time if we Zoom, I will make sure that things are working. I
Okay,
don't. So
cool.
and then that's kind of it. I have two kids in college, and so as far as audience goes, well, maybe we'll save that. We'll let David introduce himself.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm David Lyons, and I'm 29 years. I was an English teacher in public schools, both in Grand Rapids Public and in Kenowa Hills. And I retired 3 years ago. I'm now the middle college English teacher at Kenowa Hills from where I retired and in Kent City. And so I'm working still with seniors as I have my whole career.
So let's start by talking about the role. Kevin, you said that it could be helpful to teachers who want to talk shop. I see this as a really good opportunity for my pre-teaching students to kind of just hear a bunch of guys that have been around the block a little bit, talk about practice, talk about what's worked for us, what's not working for us, and probably to give us an opportunity to talk about some of the issues of the day. I can see the need for a discussion about AI because that's something that we can't not talk about in education right now.
Yeah.
There's some other things on that I have a working list on, but I'm interested to hear what you guys think about the role of this particular endeavor. David, you want to talk about that?
Uh, my thinking is that it would be that we could be of service to teachers, particularly at the beginning of their careers, but also in the middle of their careers when they might need a little boost again and something to like light their fire again. And then I also like this idea that we have to understand that we are teaching now in a different political context than we have in the past,
Hmm.
and that we may want to address some of that. And the AI, for sure, for sure.
Kevin, how about you?
So as far as the political stuff goes, I don't know. I mean, it's so divisive. You've got half of the people think one way and the other half of the people think the other way, and there doesn't seem to be a middle ground. So if we wanted to be political, I'd be willing, but more about the middle ground than
Yeah, the thing
one way
about
or the other.
the thing about the political aspect of it is it's always there, but you never really want to directly look at it, I guess, because then
Yeah.
it's then you have to it gets messy there. Yeah. But that said, teachers are in a political environment whether they want to be or not, and so navigating
Yeah.
that area might be something we want to touch on. I don't think we necessarily need to advocate for A, B, or C other than good teaching and good learning, but yeah, there's some areas that we want to be careful about talking, but we want to make sure that we talk about the truth too.
For
Um,
sure.
so who do you think's going to be listening to this? Let's talk about our audience. Who are we? who are we hoping is listening, I guess? That maybe that's the first question. Wait a minute. Before we get to that though, should we kind of introduce ourselves? I mean, I know you both know me. The three of us are pretty familiar with each other, but
I know David. David and I did the Lake Michigan Writing Project
right,
together.
right.
Yes.
And Kevin, in case you didn't know this, David and I were classmates in high school, and we've kind of had a on again, off again, relationship since then.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Thanks to both of you for doing this too. This is something that I've wanted to do in some form or fashion for quite a while. You both are familiar with the fact that I'm probably like the most entrepreneurial educator and that I want to start a lot of things, and sometimes they start and sometimes they get off the ground and sometimes they don't. Hopefully this is one that has some legs. I think it's an idea that enough people have told me is interesting enough. So let's get down talking about audience. I hope that there are people listening to this that get some benefit from it. The ones I hope most get the benefit from it are our students. My students at the university, but also my former students who are now in the teaching field that might need a little boost, might need a little trick, might need a little hack for Monday. That's who I hope is listening. So, Kevin, how about you? Who do you hope is listening to this?
Well, I hope other English teachers, because we're talking about stuff that maybe they don't talk about anymore. English, like how to diagram a sentence, or some of the other things that we used to teach, but we don't teach anymore.
Good.
That also anybody that's interested in being an English teacher.
Right.
The sort of the student teachers, the novice teachers, the people that might, I'm sure you guys know people that come into our field from other fields, from engineering. And, we have a student teacher right now who used to be an engineer, and he's like, this is not for me. Maybe something like that. Yeah.
Sure. Awesome. David, how about you?
I'm hoping that people, and really in any portion of their career, who just need to know that there's those of us that, and I like your term, vintage teachers.
It's better than veteran. Or old. I mean, there's too many adjectives that don't work there. So we'll go with vintage.
That that they might see how we, with 27 and 29 and 30 plus years, still find such joy in the teaching of the students and of sharing ideas with each other, because I cannot impress upon whomever this audience is going to be the importance of building relationships with your colleagues.
Mm-hmm. So let's kind of get into that. What do you think is important in doing that? I mean, how should we manage those relationships? How should we manage that situation?
So I have you two for.
Or is that too deep a question too early? I don't know.
So for me, I know when I was a brand new teacher, in reflection, I didn't know what I was doing. I worked so hard. I tried to make perfect lessons. And then I looked at veteran teachers, vintage teachers. It didn't seem to work that hard. And I guess at the time I didn't understand I've already done all the hard work, and that
right.
Instead of struggling through the day-to-day, they were more honing their art, their skill, their craft.
Interesting.
Perfecting it, And so as a younger 30-year-old teacher may not have been as nice or kind to the 50, 60 something year old teacher. And now that I'm a 50, 60 something year old teacher, I see that coming back around again.
Yeah, it's interesting, Kevin. That's my point of view on that is interesting too, because I now that I'm back here at the university with back in the English program and in the English department and in the English, teaching new English teachers. In reflecting back, I wish I had spent more time accessing those professors that had taught me in college. I felt like I had graduated and they didn't want to hear from me anymore. Wait, what's he calling for? Um, and now when I'm in that capacity as a college professor, I kind of wish some of those former students who are now in the classroom did call me with their questions, or did say, "Hey Roy, can we grab a cup of coffee?" or those kinds of things, because it's that kind of mentoring that really I didn't use when I was younger in my career. And as a result, I kind of had to hack my way through the wilderness when there was a path right next to it. So anyway, David, what do you think?
I had the great privilege of going back to our alma mater to teach, and so I had mentors in the high school building. And so my situation is different from most teachers because I went back to a place that was familiar. And I am ever grateful for them guiding me because, as Kevin's saying too, um, so much of my brain power was like trying to have the most perfect lesson and like so that would be some fluency and so forth like that at the expense of enjoying being with the students.
Hmm.
And then that second year is when I started to simply enjoy being with the students. And then those other things started to fall into place, but I had mentors in place to help me too.
Yeah, and Kevin, you mentioned how when you are more of a vintage teacher, when you have been teaching for a while, you're not stressing about the small things. You're not in survival mode. You're refining your practice. And so I found kind of a natural inclination when I was in that position to kind of want to help the younger teachers in the building, to kind of want to, hey, have you tried it this way? Those kinds of advice kind of things. But and again, sometimes people were responsive to it and open to it, and sometimes they weren't. So, there's part of me that says, does anybody want to listen, to be honest? But I know there are people that are out there that say, no, this is something I want, this is something I need. Please, share your advice. At the risk of it sounding like three old man talking, though, what advice would we have for young teachers that are just getting off the ground, just fresh out of the box teaching and trying to make their way? Kevin, what advice? Well, you've got one of my TAs right now. What kind of advice are you giving young teachers when they're in your classroom?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is what David mentioned, the relationship part. And the TA that I'm with, she's got that 100%. But I would also say that art can be learned. It doesn't have to be natural.
Sure.
You can learn it. So sort of that growth mindset, I would say. So even if it's not perfect, or if there's an aspect that isn't perfect, that's good, right? That's something that you need to work on, and you can work on it. I would say don't be afraid to make mistakes. That would be my big thing. I was so hung up on trying to be perfect.
Absolutely.
Credibility.
Absolutely.
I had that imposter syndrome for the first probably 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would say. Don't be afraid.
You got rid of it after 5 years, huh? I'm still carrying around my imposter syndrome. So, yeah. David, how about your thoughts? And then I have a couple things to share here.
Trust that within yourself you have everything you need for this profession. That I still see it as a calling. I don't see it as so much me choosing to teach, but teaching choosing me. And so we understand that it is, even this is my third year overall, it is still takes an enormous amount of time. But I have learned, and this is what I would want them to start in the early years, learn so that time doesn't rule you, you learn how to rule time.
Good.
I say that because I'm going to continue to do this work with a servant's heart.
Nice. So, David,
But I have different responsibilities away from the classroom than I did when I was first starting as well.
absolutely. Now, those kind of things, those kind of sentiments, the whole idea of building relationships and the whole affective part of our career isn't something we're really taught. We're told to do that. Administrators have caught on to the buzzword of build relationships, but I don't, sometimes when I'm talking with my pre-teachers, they're not sure what the heck that means, build relationships. So one of the things I tell them to do is to have conversations with their students that have nothing to do with academics. How'd the game go? Figure out what their interests are. Believe it or not, listen to the music they listen to. Those kinds of things to build those relationships. What are you guys doing to, what are some of the strategies or techniques you're using to build relationships, Kevin?
Greet them at the door. Like you said, talk to them about stuff that their lives are interested in. It's funny you said, listen to the music. That old, hey, make a soundtrack for this book or this play or this story. Great way. But that playlist is a great way to know what they're listening to. And for me, I love music. It's also a good way to learn new stuff as well as get to know
Right.
that. But it's a nice assignment to give. Like, hey, it's a choice. You can make a soundtrack.
Yeah,
So-
I've never been so relevant in my song choices as when I've been teaching, freshmen and sophomores and juniors and seniors in college or in high school for that matter. Yeah. David, how about you?
I have what I call my by the way lessons that have absolutely nothing to do with English, you would think, because they're tangential. But then, okay, where do people stop for breakfast, or where do people stop for lunch on your way home from school here? And um, did you watch like Toronto and Seattle last night? Or did you watch my Lions? And then where something's going to come out of one of their mouths
Sure.
that I can then tie into the lesson at large. I didn't know how to do that the first probably 5, almost 10 years. That ability to just have banter with them and then see where it was going to lead.
Bantering is a skill too. Because if you're not doing it right, it's pretty obvious to a student, So, how was fill in name of class here? How is, school activity going? I mean, you can sound really formulaic when you try to build relationships, and so it is something where you can't fake it. You got to kind of actually be interested in what they're doing and actually interested in what they're saying and those sorts of things. And if you're not, it really comes off as plastic and fake. Yeah.
Storytelling every single day, some kind of narrative about something that I've learned about them,
Mm-hmm.
or invite them to share, or I'm going to tell them something that's going on, because to trust my vulnerability in front of them, my humanity in front of them, was a leap of faith for someone that was raised Northern European stoic like me.
Yes. Yeah. That Finnish heritage is showing, that's for sure. Kevin, I want to ask you, because you are one of the three of us who is currently active in a high school classroom. So I think this is something that you might have a little bit more insight than we do. Do students know when you're trying to build relationships with them? Do they see behind the curtain there, or are they like, oh, Mr. Mulvihill, he really does care about what I'm doing? I mean, how do you make sure you're authentic with that?
Well, if you use the sentence stems that they tell you at the professional development, and all the teachers are using the same language, then they see it as disingenuous.
Mhm.
But, I'm a pretty genuine person. When I'm asking, I'm genuinely curious. And I don't ask every day. I don't ask just one kid. So this idea that not an especially lovey kind of person either, you know. And I think they get that. And so when I ask, then I think they see it as genuine. I don't, and also too, it's like just try to respect their time as well.
Right.
I think that's a big thing too, and they
Mhm.
they appreciate it. I mean, just treat them like human beings. I know that sounds like a platitude, but it's like, do you
No,
like
it's
to be told,
not.
do you like to be told what to do all the time? No.
Right.
Stop telling them what to do all the time.
So I think one of the things that gives them that feeling, Kevin, is choice. Being able to have some autonomy over what goes on in their day. But how else do you foster that? How else do you foster that ability for them to feel like you're not manipulating them? You're taking them in a place where they really want to go.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess
Maybe that's a
no. I
deeper
mean,
question for a
honestly,
different time.
yeah. I guess I haven't really thought about it like that before. You know what I mean? I
Right.
just kind of do it, and so maybe that's something that, excuse me, that I need to think about a little more. How does it work,
Right.
and why does it work? Um,
Because like when we were doing capturing kids' hearts for professional um development, and I can't remember what the equivalent of it was in the early years. And people would say to me, "Well, like you don't really do good news, and you don't really do this. Like when they discipline, ask them these questions,
Yep. I
and you
see where
don't
this
really
is
do
going.
this, and or your social contract basically says we take care of each other, so we don't need to have anything more on there. That's fine." And then they go, "But because of who you are, you're capturing the kids' hearts."
Right. And
And
to be
so
honest,
then,
most of those things, David, when you look at a package like capturing kids' hearts or something like that, it's really just what we do naturally, but it's intentional, right?
yes,
I didn't do good news every day. Hey, does somebody have good news? But there's times when I go, hey, what's going on? How we doing here, right? That's a similar thing. It's just less formal, right?
yeah,
Um, Another of the techniques that I think about that I learned when we did the capturing kids' hearts training is the whole idea of the redirection questions, right? The same redirection questions that I suggest and that I've used my entire career popped up in that training. So good practice is good practice. They pop up in different places. The problem is if it's canned or if it's like according to a script, I think students are going to see through that really quick.
and then to like Kevin's point too, because it becomes so naturally a part of our teacher persona
Absolutely.
that an exercise like us three here having this conversation is important because we are going to have to articulate, okay, what moves am I making?
Right.
Because then the question becomes, are some of those moves replicable,
Yeah.
or are those moves simply because of who I am?
Right. And it's tricky too, because anytime you have somebody who's expert in something, somebody wants to put it in a can and sell it. Right.
Yes.
So, oh, Roy, you're such a great guy. Can you, I mean, I wouldn't even know where to start in developing some kind of system for people to do what I do, how I do it. I'm not even sure if I would want somebody to do it the way I do it. So yeah, that's a tricky issue, isn't it? And it's hard to really figure out what the best practice is there. Um, just looking at time, I don't want this to go too far into Kevin's planning period here, so I'm going to try to move it forward by let's talk about format a little bit. I'm okay with having a three-person conversation, but should we perhaps have like invite people to join us for this at some point, or is it just the three of us for now?
I like
Kevin, what
the
do you
idea
think?
that we would have, I would like the idea that we would have that as a goal as we develop this.
Okay. Kevin, how
Right
about you?
now,
Sorry, David, I don't mean to cut you off.
right now, the three of us are kind of feeling this out.
Hmm. Yeah, it's almost too early to invite somebody when we're not even sure what it is yet, right?
I, I like the idea of three people talking, but I also like the idea of a segment like this is a grammar thing,
Yeah.
or um, this is a classroom management thing, or this is the thing that I wish I knew year two kind of thing. Or hey, I read this book, or
Nice.
what's a writer that's influenced you kind of thing. Um, but I do like the idea of guests, and I do like the idea of a variety of guests of this person's a student teacher. This person is a 10-year veteran. This,
Yeah, I think if we get
this-
another old person in the room, it's not necessarily accomplishing what you do with guests. Is that kind of
yeah,
what you're getting at?
but
Right.
but at the same time, I mean, getting back to what we are saying previously, I think team. Not that we could do this in a podcast, but I learned the most honestly when I team taught in summer school.
Yeah.
Watching other teachers' moves and being like, "Oh, you can do that." I never thought about that. Um, when a kid calls you out, and not to lays all over Roy, but I watched Roy sit down and be like, I think a kid called you like an asshole or something. And I want you to sit down and be like, huh, why did you think that? And like really listen to what he had to say. And it wasn't just pissed, he wasn't pissed at you. And I was like, I would have fucking hit the roof, if he would have called me out in front of a room of, what do we have, like 60, 65 kids
Yeah, it was
together?
about that. Yeah.
It was
Yeah, because it was
big.
a double room with the accordion
Yeah.
door pulled open. Yeah.
And you could have heard a pin drop as you two guys were talking about this. And I was like, gosh, that was a powerful moment. I
Well,
bet you are ready
yeah, and I don't
for
necessarily remember that particular incident in specific, but I do know that especially later on in my time in the high school classroom, I was a different teacher than what I was at the beginning. I was definitely not an authoritarian necessarily at the beginning, but my management style was a lot more do what I say because that's the right thing to do, as opposed to, well, wait a minute, why is this kid behaving the way they are?
right.
Right. I really saw my students as adversaries at the beginning of my career.
Yeah.
I'm the guy in charge and you're supposed to do what I do. And I think, now that I've kind of taken the idea of walking beside my students rather than, leading from the front, I think that's changed how I approach that too. So thanks for that, though. I'm glad you have that memory.
No, I think it
My
was the
memory of summer
very,
school is the two of us with smart boards on either end of the room doing
yeah,
dueling diagrams, which was,
yeah.
I'm not sure what the kids got out of it, but we got a ball out of that.
Man, that was fun.
Yeah.
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 I think that's where we started talking about English Teacher Island.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. David, anything to add here?
No, that this idea of how you develop how the teacher develops presence in the classroom as opposed to like putting a thumb down on everything, because
Yeah.
there's a way for you to be present with them, and your presence will take care of so much of like the kids throwing the pencils at each other's heads and aiming for mine all too often and that kind of stuff, because I learned how to just be.
David, I've been told that too, that I have a classroom presence, and I don't know if I ever really cultivated that. I don't know if I ever really went, all right, here's how I'm going to have a classroom presence. So I'm still having trouble defining what that really is. Would you give me one characteristic of presence in the classroom, or maybe a piece of evidence that someone has it?
Teachers sitting in the teachers sitting in the back corner with their desk next to a student, and they're helping that one student, and the other students in the classroom are working on whatever the assignment was. And um that did not come naturally for me.
Right.
That was part of my deliberate growth. And so then the principal would come in the room, and and the other classrooms, the teacher's standing up front, not behind a lectern and giving information, and I'm sitting back in the corner with that student, but then I can teach the others at that time because they came to like you. I always thought of me as being part of I always thought of them as being part of the family. That was like my philosophy toward it, is that the students and I are part of the family. We have to learn how to take care of each other and get along with each other, because for 9 months we're going to really be family.
David, I want to, maybe that's how we kind of wrap this up, because I'm looking at my watch, and Kevin, you got a class to get to. Your one rule in your classroom, in the last couple years, I borrowed that from you, and it did wonders for me, but I think it took a while for me to be comfortable enough to do that. Your one rule in your class, go ahead and talk about that for a second. And then Kevin, I'd like to hear what you think about it.
We take care of each other.
Could you expand on that?
And so how we interact with each other, if someone needs help in the room, if someone's having needs something to eat or something like that, that someone else in that room knows, because I've trained them that way, because I've made that the ethos of the classroom. They know they'll get up and help each other. And it is, again, me learning how to trust that they knew that inherently, and all I had to do is nurture that, as opposed to the teachers that had lists of 20,000 don't do this, don't. That was not going to work for this personality.
Well, and there's enough of those at the school level that why do they need more when they walk through your door? Kevin, what do you think about that? Is that something you would dare to do in your classroom, or no?
Yeah, I think that's a better way to put it. We have the Alpha Wolf program, which is character building, social contract, positive behavior. I forgot what the other PB, positive behavior system. I don't know.
Support. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Support. So this idea that support each other in the ups and downs in life. And the problem is there are posters and signs everywhere. I don't know that the kids buy into it so much because it's the system,
Yeah, and sometimes when you have a system like that, people don't actively teach those kind of things because you've got the system. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, exactly. Or that students don't really believe it because it's just another part of school, as opposed to, hey, this is the way Mr. Lyons' classroom works. So I can relax in here. No, I can help people out, and it's just a natural way to be versus goals to attain, I guess.
Cool.
So students being, right? Humans being instead of doing, sort of.
Kevin, do you still do social contracts?
No. The Alpha Wolf takes care of it, and I got tired of the whole you got to give respect to get respect.
Right.
Now I respect you because you're a human being. Human beings deserve our respect. That's it. Right.
Yeah, and it's funny how you don't necessarily need that on the wall for folks to understand that too.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it day one,
right?
And I figure if you're disrespecting me, something's going on, and we're going to talk about it,
right?
But I mean, there's a line. I am a human being,
right.
But we're human beings. We have good days and bad days.
For sure.
So I think let's decide what we want the main thing that we talk about next time to be. And then maybe we can also volunteer one more thing that we're going to bring. I think, Kevin, you'll probably have some sort of grammar hack or
Yeah.
maybe some basic diagramming for us next time. But I mean, that's my suggestion. You can do what you want.
Yeah.
One topic I think we should probably talk about next time is conflict resolution. Just simply
Yes.
because 90% of the problems I've had in the classroom have been adults, not the students. And now that my students are adults, they're not the problem either. So sometimes it's outside influences on the classroom. So anyway, yeah, that's what I'd like us to toss around. Kevin, how
Sounds
about you?
good.
I could talk about conflict resolution. I think that's a good idea,
Yeah,
especially in today's climate, maybe to get
absolutely.
circle back to that political discussion.
And that's a good topic as one, particularly as these student teachers are starting to take over classrooms to have some conversation around how you resolve conflict would be good for us.
Yeah, and I think that's important for student teachers and young teachers, but I think it's also important for veteran teachers, especially when they get into leadership roles. I mean, there's going to be
Yes.
conflict as a department head, there's going to be conflict as a union rep, there's going to be conflict in any sort of leadership role that one takes in the classroom. So the alarm I just set on my watch for Kevin needs to get back to class just went off. So I think we'll wrap it up here. Any words of wisdom, David, to lead us into the end or no?
Today, we'll entice people to come back.
There you go. All right. Kevin, any last words?
No, it's just really good to see you guys again. I wish my camera worked.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Kevin,
I had
and thank
fun.
you,
I hope
Roy.
you did too. Did you guys have
All right.
fun?
We did enjoy this very much. Thank you.
All right. Take care, guys.
Thanks.
Take care.
Talk to you
Yep.
soon.